Thank you for staying with us. Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria, has an estimated population of 14 million people. Commuting in the ever busy city could be challenging because of its ever increasing population, and this is all in spite of the transit system provided by the state. We have with us this morning, joining us virtually, Engineer Abimbola Akinyajo, who is the Managing Director, Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA. Good morning, Mrs. Akinyajo. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. You are the boss at LAMATA. I would say that you have your work cut out, especially in light of what happened, well, should I say after the end-size protestation, or should I say during, well, you know what I'm talking about. The number of buses in Lagos has been depleted, and that must be causing you some sleepless nights.
Yes. We've been badly affected by the protests. A number of our buses have been burnt. A major terminal that we had just commissioned earlier in the year as part of the 1 year of Governor Sanwo-Olu's inauguration was also burnt, and it was but as you say, transportation is something that cannot afford to go to sleep, not in a city of 22 million people. So we're dusting up our boots and we're back on the road.
Yeah, so what plans do you have for the immediate to help solve some of the transportation problems in Lagos? Because the population of Lagos, I mean, it's growing every single day. More people are coming into Lagos and they need to move around somehow.
Okay. So when we look at Lagos, we see a teeming city of what, 22 million people. And we have about 12 million trips, public transport trips every day. And 97% of that is done on the roads. So you can imagine the reason we have traffic really is because everybody is on the road. So part of what we also see is the fact that our form of public transportation, even on the road, is hugely inefficient. We use mainly danfos, which will carry, 14, 15 passengers. So the plan of LAMATA, obviously, first of all, we're sitting in a city that is, most of its public transportation is done by the informal sector. And what LAMATA's role is, or what we've been trying to do, is to begin to migrate the informal to a formal sector. And also to move away from these small danfos. So when I say, for instance, a danfo will carry 14, 15 people, but a high capacity bus will carry about 70 people. So for every high capacity bus I put out, I take out 5 danfos, sort of technically, right? So the vision of LAMATA is to end up with the majority of our bus transportation being high capacity buses. And in order to facilitate that, the state has about 500 high capacity buses that have been deployed, high and medium capacity buses that have been deployed, 500 to 550 buses. We have in total 800 buses that will be deployed. Some of them were burnt, unfortunately, in the protest. And beyond that, we're also talking to private sector. The vision of the state is to roll out what we call the bus reform initiative. And that is where the state sits back and implements all the infrastructure and allows or creates an enabling environment for private sector to work with us. And right now we have 5, we call them BOCs, bus operating companies, who are working with us. So for now, they're running the buses that we have put out but the medium-term position is that they will bring their own buses. So as soon as middle of next year, say second quarter, third quarter of next year, and all of this has been pushed back purely because of COVID and all of the things that's been happening world over. But from round about end of second quarter, these private entities will also bring their buses. And so we expect to see additional buses come into the space of public transportation and hopefully reduce the challenges that the people in Lagos are seeing. So when I look at it from that perspective, we in LAMATA, we are in the business of building infrastructure. So we're building bus terminals, bus depots, bus stops. We're rehabilitating roads to ensure that all of those buses will be able to do what they have been called upon to do efficiently. Also, part of what we're doing is to launch, which we did launch, the e-ticketing system that allows you to get on a bus or any form of transportation. That will also be extended to the water transportation and to the trains when they come using our Cowrie card. That also ensures effective and efficient onboarding of passengers. And it also speaks to safety. When you board the bus with your Cowrie card, you can identify where you are. We also in Lagos can also identify you. So when Governor speaks about we should not be anonymous in Lagos, owning a Cowrie card speaks to you being registered and you will get a card. And if you have any incident on the bus, on any of our buses, we can deal with it based on the fact that we have your details. So those are the sorts of plans we have in terms of transportation. Not to speak to our rail implementation that's coming up. The red line is on its way and it's due to complete end of 2022. That's a rail line that will travel from.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Akinjo. Let's remain with the buses for now. We'll go to that other part in a bit. Now, how many buses do you actually have on the roads now after that incident? After the protestations.
So we have round about 400 buses, 400 to 450 buses. That's what we have on the roads. We still have a few that we can deploy, that we are fitting with all the electronic gadgets to ensure that they have the e-ticketing, the intelligent transport systems before we roll them out. But on the roads, as we speak, we have round about 400 buses.
400 of how many? How many before the protests?
Before the protests, we had over 500.
Okay. Now, you spoke about e-tickets and stuff like that. Yes. Is it possible to get season tickets?
Right now, what is possible is that you can load your card to up to 30,000 naira. So what it allows you to do is be able to budget for your transportation, and it becomes even more useful to you as we grow. So you can choose now, if I take the Abule Egba to Oshodi corridor, which has been successfully launched, and on that corridor, there is no cash being used at all. So most people who travel on that, they actually would go to the either the terminal or on the Cowrie app and load up to 20,000, and that's their monthly transportation sorted.
Is it cheaper for them if they buy in bulk that way?
What is definitely cheaper is traveling on the regulated system. When I look at Abule Egba Oshodi, for instance, our travel on that corridor on the BRT buses is 40% at least cheaper than the Danfos. What we will look at is when we are well established, we can then begin to look at giving incentives for people who do that journey regularly. So maybe, and those are things we're still working out. At this point in time, we're ramping up and we haven't got that system yet. But it's things we're looking at as to maybe you you buy a certain number of tickets and you get one off or whatever. But we haven't worked that out completely yet.
No, what I meant was if I bought, for instance, a single trip journey, as opposed to buying that 20,000 naira worth of,
Okay.
of trips, is it cheaper for me on the same route because I have bought in bulk? Would I pay
No,
the same
what
thing
you're
as a
doing,
person who's buying just one trip?
well, what you're doing, you are not buying. So the position is whether you are paying a 20,000 naira or you are buying a single trip,
Yeah.
you are still paying for a single trip. That is the system we have now. So you will, so Abule Egbato Oshodi, that whole stretch is a 300 naira ticket. And regardless of whether you've chosen to pay to load your card, because the card is yours, to load your card with more money than a single trip,
Yeah.
what it's giving you is convenience. The fact that you don't have to go every time to go and queue to pay for your journey. For
Okay.
now, that's what we're offering. But over
Okay.
time, as we expand, we will look at that and see whether there can be incentives for those who load their cards for more money.
Okay. Now, the pressure on Lagos roads is something that everyone knows about. And sometimes when the traffic decides to deal with one can spend sometimes 4 or 5 hours getting from one point to the other. Like it happened on Thursday. From Lekki to the mainland took me 4 hours, for instance. So, with all that kind of pressure, what are the alternatives that you are planning to reduce the pressure on the roads?
The alternatives that the state is planning, obviously, there's the waterways, which is already ongoing. There's also the train systems that we're looking at. What this administration has promised and is in process is the implementation of not just the blue line, which we intend to complete, but also the red line. So the blue line goes from, right now, we will travel from Mile 2 to Marina. And the red line will travel all the way from Agbado to Oyinbo for now. And then you can either hop on a bus, a BRT bus that will take you to Marina. So by 2022, those two lines will be operational. End of 2022, those two lines will be operational. If you
Oh,
think about Agbado to Oyinbo, you're looking at about anything from 700 to 750,000 passengers per day. If you look at the Okokomaiko end, which is the first phase of it, is what we're looking to come on stream from Mile 2 to Marina. That will look to 300, 350,000 passengers per day. So from the state's perspective, we are actively and aggressively pursuing the implementation of the rail lines. We also put out the expression of interest for 4 other rail lines, and that was well responded to. And in the year 2021, we will begin to speak to prospective investors who have expressed interest in those lines. So there is the green line, which will go from Marina to Aja in the first phase, and then from Aja, once it's extended to Lekki Free Trade Zone, and the yellow line, which will be from Ota to Ido, the orange line from Ikorodu Agbowa to Ikeja, and the purple line, which is all, sort of like that Redeem Camp all the way to Lasso, and that will connect with the blue line. In addition to that, there is what I call it the Circle Line. It's the Victoria Island monorail that goes from Marina, travels round Victoria Island to Lekki, and then comes round through Ikoyi and gets back to Marina. That sort of connects my red and my blue that are coming into Marina with my green that's going from Lekki all the way into the Lekki corridor. So all of these things are part of what the Lagos master plan, the transport master plan that Lagos has, the implementation of these rail lines, the implementation of 24 water routes, which Lagos is systematically doing, and some of them have been opened, the implementation of dedicated bus routes, quality bus corridors, those sorts of things. So to entice people to come away from their cars and get into public transport. But beyond that, in implementing these public transport systems, we are also doing intermodal integrated systems, ensuring that when I come off my train, I can get onto a bus. So we have a system called the first and the last mile, which will take passengers closest to their destination. That is what will, so there'll be buses at the train stations, at the major BRT stations, and these are the small buses. This is where the small buses become useful, and they will take you from those major terminals closest to your homes. And with all this, when they come together, we hope, even if we have traffic, the most important thing is to have an alternative. So you choose to sit in traffic, that will be a choice you're making, not because you have to. Because Lagos State will, by implementing all these modes and integrated systems, would have given you an alternative to using your car.
Yeah, I thought the red and blue lines were for delivery in 2020. You said 2022.
The red line is 2022 because we've just started it. It was for implementation, start of implementation in 2020.
The blue line.
That was the blue line has been that's the red line. The blue line has been in construction for a very long time. But this administration has ensured that we will, because the issue around a lot of these infrastructural developments is funding. So what we've done, what the administration's done now is to ring fence the funding for us and made it available. So the contractors now have given us programs, and we are all moving in that direction of making sure that implementation will be complete and operations will start end of 2022.
Okay. Now let's look at the waterways. Any plan for any expansion or the use of bigger vessels?
Now, bearing in mind, waterways is managed by LASWA, but I will speak to it from the perspective of the Transport Master Plan. The Master Plan speaks to an additional 24 waterways. And I think in the short term, there's a number of them that are earmarked to be put in place, or jetties are being built. And jetties, you can see that Pipe Cowries is very much alive and it's working. The one in Ijede, the one in Ibeshe. There is a lot of dredging taking place with the Ministry of Waterfront. And Lazwa Lag Ferry has bought, the state has actually procured 14 boats, and there's another additional number of boats that are coming on board. So the waterways is actually being expanded, and the different routes are increasing. And I believe that in 2021, they're looking to put in additional 5 routes. But, that's, Lazwa is the owner of that jurisdiction. It's out of LAMATA's jurisdiction.
Okay, Mrs. Akiajo, we will come back and continue this conversation in just a moment. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. We were talking about the waterways, even though I realized that it's under another agency, Mrs. Akiajo. But like you said, you're looking at it from the point of view of it being part of the general plan for the master plan for Lagos as a mega city. Yes, please go ahead.
So, like I said, there are new routes coming on board come 2021. The state is also looking to procuring more boats, or more importantly, they're also speaking to private sector to ensure that they come. So what the state has done, which is probably the same way we've done it with the buses, is to start by showing or demonstrating the viability of this business. So by buying the boats and putting them out there, and now speaking to private sector and ensuring that we have bigger boats, we have safer boats, and not just the local boat operators that we have. I know that very soon we will have more private sector input into the waterways as well.
Now, some people have said that Lagos has been growing for quite some time, And Lagos has been referred to as a mega city for a number of years. And the thinking is that Lagos State has not been proactive in planning to match the ratio of its population growth. How would you react to that?
Okay, I would say that I would disagree. And I would disagree, first of all, from the perspective that Lagos is probably the only state that not only has a master plan for the majority of the works or the master plan has been, the Lagos Transport Master Plan has been in existence since, I don't know, 2000. And every so often we update it. So as we have it now, it is up to 2032. It's projected, the planning is projected to 2032. And this year, well, when I say this year, that'll be next year now, 2021, LAMATA will actually update that one again. And that is what the state has been doing. And we have been growing. Unfortunately for Lagos, I guess Lagos's success is also its problem. We have a net migration into Lagos that is just huge. So from that perspective, our plans are constantly being updated to ensure that we match up with the level of migration we have. So from the position that not just our transport master plan is put in place, but we also have cities, areas like Koshofe, for instance, they have recently launched their own little master plan for the area. And what Lagos does is when all these local governments or local areas start to develop their master plan, it is sent around to all the agencies and all the other local government areas and LCDAs so that there is a synergy in the planning. And everybody understands that, well, if I do my road up to here, it's going to connect to another road in that local government area. And it's the same for the master plan for transportation, for instance. Even though I look after road transportation, I understand and I am aware of what it is that the waterways will do. And both of us have that responsibility to ensure that if Lagos wants to build an intermodal transport system, we have to have that level of synergy. So I know where all of his ferries will be, all of his jetties will be, and I have to ensure that I have buses that will relate to those particular areas. So I think in terms of planning, I don't know that there is any state that's done it any better than Lagos State.
Yeah, but no state has the kind of population that Lagos has, and Lagos has seen this coming a long time. And you said this all began in 2000. That's 20 years ago. By now, someone like me should be able to abandon my car and jump on a bus to wherever I'm going within Lagos, don't you think?
Well, yes. And I believe that from that perspective, we have, whilst you can say that we have the plans and we've been looking at it for the past 20 years, the developments in Lagos cannot be understated. There's no way you can look at it and say we haven't been doing part of the things that we have stated in our plan. I guess when you look at the areas of our bus implementation, there is we have built a number of bus stops, we have done a number of bus routes. In terms of working with our planning, we have a number of studies that has informed the bus routes that we have implemented. And as we speak, we must also be aware that all of this is sitting in the place of funding. But this particular government is determined to ensure that by the end of this administration, we will see a marked difference. Part of what we are also doing is ensuring that we move away from, as much as possible, from the informal sector to the formal sector. So in launching the bus reform initiative, we're liaising with the informal sector and we're dealing with them to bring them under the fold. Whilst you can't legislate against an existing business, you can gently bring them in the fold. So this administration is very, very much committed. And I believe when you look at it from all the things that we've been doing, is very much committed to ensuring that all of the planned infrastructural delivery will be done. And from the perspective of the rail, from the perspective of the buses, from the perspective of the infrastructure to ensure that the buses run. So we have, for instance, I have about 4 terminals that will come live next year. There's a terminal in Ojota, there's a terminal in Agege, there's a terminal in Aja that will come, there's a terminal in Yaba, and those ones integrate with the rail. So Lagos is going somewhere, and for definite, regardless of where we've come from, I can assure you that by the end of this administration, the transport system of Lagos will have seen a huge development.
Well, we can't wait to see that. Now, Caleb Daramola says, why are there so many buses grounded at the Ojota bus park and with no repairs in sight?
Ojota bus park. Now, this is, there are 2 ways to look at it. We have a private sector participant in the bus reform, and that is Primero. Those buses are Primero's buses. Now, there's some buses that we have, and what I said earlier was that some of those buses, we're putting validators on them, and we're putting intelligent transport systems on them to ensure that when my buses are moving, I can track them, I can ensure that the driver is behaving properly, and also people can use the e-ticketing system on them. And those are the ones I said that will come on board before the end of the year. All of the buses that we have will be on the road. There's some of those buses that belong to the private sector, and we're working with them to ensure that they bring them on board as well.
I have tried on 2 occasions and also yesterday to purchase a bus card at Abulegba, but each time I am told there are no cards available.
Abulegba, that's news to me. And what I would suggest because we have, he should, when he goes to Abulegba, he should dial the customer service number on the back of at the station. Somebody will attend to him. And if I could also get his number, I myself will probably call him and make sure that his card gets to him. So if you have a contact for him as he's called you, if you let me have it, I will deal with him.
Right.
But it's
Sorry?
No, I was just about to say that cards as of Friday, because I check that every day, cards are available at every station that they're being sold.
So let's look at the short term again. So there are fewer buses on the roads now because some buses have been burnt, obviously. So commuters are facing a hard time because we understand that Lagosians had taken a liking to those buses because they were so comfortable. And of course, the BRT lane also made their trips a little shorter. So there are fewer buses now. So commuters face a challenge moving from place to place. What's the short-term plan to reduce? We've seen long queues at bus stops for obvious reasons. So what are you doing in the short term to make this challenge a little more bearable for commuters?
So like I said, we had some buses that we were bringing deployment for later in the year. Those ones we're starting to deploy even quicker now, and that's what we're trying to do. I have at least another 150 buses that we're trying to put out, and that is what we have sort of improved or increased the rate at which the validators are being put on them, and we're hoping that in the next 2 to 3 weeks there'll be an additional 100 buses put on the roads.
So there are more buses on the road, so we shouldn't have too many problems commuting within Lagos. Um,
And we're also opening up new routes. What we're doing is we're trying to identify areas where we can extend our services. So whilst you see us in the Abule Egba Oshodi corridor, we're going towards Command, we're going in Ayobo direction. We also, that Oyingbo terminal was supposed to be serving Oyingbo to Idumota, Oyingbo to Oshodi, and Oyingbo to CMS. Unfortunately, we're where we are now, but we're looking for ways to at least start the Oyingbo to CMS route, CMS or Balinde route in the next couple of weeks as well. So we're opening new routes. We just have to keep moving. And that's what we're doing because the people of Lagos need to be moved.
So the blue line will come into commission in 2022, you said? Am I correct? Sorry?
Yes, yes, it will. The blue line and the red line, both of them
blue
we're
and
looking
red,
at.
2022. Okay. So are we expecting that by at least 2022, Lagos will have taken the look, in quotes, of a mega city with these lines coming into commission, coupled with the
Definitely.
huge number of buses which you also intend to deploy?
So if we look at where we're headed, for instance, like I said earlier, the buses that we have, they're the buses that are coming from the private sector. I'm expecting that come 2022, easily we should have 2,000 high medium capacity buses on the road. Very easily, we would have about 2,000 last mile buses on the road. Also, as part of the infrastructural development, we would be building the Marina interchange, which will be an interchange that allows for water, BRT, rail, regular buses, and last mile buses. I will have that in Marina. I will have that in Mile 2. By the end of 2022, those two huge infrastructure will be implemented. We intend to start them next year. There will also be an additional 5 bus terminals that will also be opened. So there'll be Yano Ipaja, there'll be one in Abule Egba, there's Ojota, there's Nako, there's one along Nako, there's one in Agege, there's also another one that we're building in Aja. So Lagos will look very different, and Lagos will begin to look like my strategic master plan says that we should look. A city that understands what it takes to move its huge population. Those terminals will allow people to go and take their public transport, either the buses, and most of our terminals, so for instance, Oshodi and Yaba and Oyingbo, they are related to the red line. So if you come off the red line and go wherever you need to go. So there is intermodal systems. All of this is planned so that we have intermodal systems and connectivity between all of our transportation modes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Engineer Abimbola Akinjo, Managing Director, Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA. And good luck in the job that you are undertaking. Sunrise will be right back in a moment with another interesting conversation. Do join us.